Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to this Committee of Parliament. This is a committee on appointments. It's a constitutional and statutory committee, grounded also in the standing orders of Parliament. It's a committee that will interact with you to assess your suitability or otherwise in going to the office of Cabinet Secretary, to which the President has nominated you as Cabinet Secretary for East African Community Affairs and Regional Development. This committee is chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, yours truly here. On my right is my Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Gladys Boss. On my left is the Clerk of the National Assembly, Samuel Njoroge. At the background there are part of our support staff. I'll now invite the members of the committee to introduce themselves.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Junet Mohammed, MP Suna East.
David Kosing, MP Pogo South.
Mary Massa, MP Teso South.
Abdul Rahim Daoud, MP Nordi Mentimeru.
George Gitonga Murugara, MP Tharaka, Farakanifi.
Owen Baya, MP Kilifi North.
Robert Mbui, MP Kadian.
Stephen Mule, MP Matungulu.
Didoraso, MP Saku.
Abdi Shurie, MP Balambala, Garissa County.
Mishimbako, MP Likoni.
Adehab Mukami, County MP Nyeri.
We have some other MPs who probably are on the way. We've seen the weather is not very good out there. You are Beatrice Asukul Moe.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, it's called Beatrice Asukul Moe.
Moe, yes, correct. Welcome once again. You will interact with us on oath. So I'll invite you, depending on your faith, to take the Bible or the Holy Quran or the Holy Book of the Hindu religion. Which one?
The Bible, Mr. Speaker.
Bible. So be upstanding, take the Bible in your right hand, and recite the oath that you will be shown.
I, Beatrice Asukul Moe, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. You may take your seat and sign to the oath. Documents, give them to the sergeant to pass them on to the clerk to cross-check whether they correspond with what is in our possession. Having done that, I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to ask you. No, sorry. I'll invite you, Beatrice, to introduce yourself to the committee and to the country. People are watching. Tell us your name, your educational background, your work experience, and any key competencies that make you feel you are suitable for appointment to the office as Cabinet Secretary. In 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm called Beatrice Asukul Moe. That is my current maiden name, Beatrice Asukul Nakusa. Both are my names. First and foremost, I would like to really thank God the Almighty for speaking to the soul of our leadership to consider me in this appointment. And my thanks goes to His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, for feeling it better for me to be the person appointed for this opportunity to serve this Kenya, if appointed. Currently, I'm married. I'm a mother of 3. Back to my personal status and education. And before that, I will speak how I was born. I'm born in Lokicha, South Sub-County, Turkana County, in a place called Kapese. Kapese is family known for the oil block, Block 10BB. If you remember, Block 10BB. If you remember the Talo exploration thing, that is the area where I was born. By the late parents, mom and dad, may their soul rest in eternal peace. Thereafter, I went to Lokchari Mixed Primary School. After finishing my class 8, I was called in St. Joseph's Chepterit Girls High School in Kapsabet, Nandi County. I started Form 1 up to Form 3. Reaching Form 3, by then when we were called, there were special who would join provincial school or national school within the county in terms of the needy ones. I was privileged to be one of those who were considered when I was called at Chepterit Girls High School, Kapsabet. So I enjoyed the privilege of being supported by that fund up to Form 3. I don't know what really happened. When we were now reporting Form 4, it was too unfortunate that we were told the fund has come to an end for political reasons. By then, being a student could not even tell what it is to be political in disconnecting your future. So that is what happened. A number of us were affected. Number of students that were supported in the alliance schools, big schools, national schools were affected. So what finally happened was I sat home. I stayed home for 9 months. And it was simply because I had no way out. Because even as we were in school primary, we were using the school feeding program to support ourselves. Because that is when I had a school feeding program, I always know what it means to be fed to go to school, or to go to school in order to get food. Now along the way, you get advantage of getting to school, or even to learn. So after that, I felt like I can't wait anymore. I had to register myself privately in Kitale High School, one of the schools in Kitale, just to finish. So after finishing, I had shortly to join Oxfam as a food relief monitor. I did that for 1 year, and then thereafter I decided to go to Kobuje Social Development Training Institute, where I did my certificate. And all this was because the government institutions were less in Turkana. There were more churches, institutions, and non-government organizations. So any training you would go realigning with the opportunity around the place. And the opportunity was to serve either in a church institution or to serve in an organization that is an NGO. So after that, I had to get a job. After the certificate, I had to be employed with Amref. That other experience, I'll not speak about it. Okay, thereafter, I went to Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I graduated. And then thereafter, I had to do my master's degree in governance and ethics. It is at graduation level. I have finished theory. I have cleared, only that I'm waiting to graduate. Now, on the side of experience, I worked as a relief food monitor with Oxfam. after my training with Kobuje Development Training Institute, I joined AMREF Research Kenya, AMREF Kenya that is, that a program that was dealing with livestock and eye-darted disease. And it was basically in the northern part of Turkana, by then the greater Turkana North. And then thereafter, I was able to be appointed in the Rift Valley Water Services Board as a director. The first attempt was getting into the development in terms of what's going on. We are picked as the chair for audit. And then thereafter, I managed my way to become again the chair for technical because I really wanted to influence policies and the things that would really work out something different in Turkana because I had a better ground of what it was to benefit from government institutions. So thereafter, I was able now to join county government of Turkana as a CEC in charge of water, agriculture, irrigation, and reclamation. And that was then the bigger ministry in the entire, though thereafter they had to split it and even have two chief officers and are working under one CEC. So thereafter, after that, I became free to listen more on political happenings of the country. So I was in the ODM, so I was following things around the party. Up to this moment, that is what I can say.
Thank you, Beatrice. I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to ask you the first question.
Thank you, Mrs. Moy. Kenya's documented historical marginalization. Currently, there's a lot of attention on climate change and climate resilience, and therefore, the docket to which you're nominated, the East African Community, and Assal region and regional development, is actually at the center of this. Approved. What is your vision in respect to this historical marginalization of those areas, and how will you help steer that vision of ensuring that there is climate resilience and more speedier development in those regions? Thank you.
Go ahead.
It is true. Arid lands where I belong, fortunately, Turkana falls under arid lands. I suffered many years of marginalization, and I tend to believe I saw that happen because I was present and I'm present where these things were being done. The marginalization that is coming to these arid lands is specifically on the stereotype. Reflected us in a very negative way. I also know we've never benefited. The arid lands have never benefited. Sorry to speak like this because I am also an arid person, so I've been a victim of these things. So sometimes when I say I mean the circumstances through which I also grew is relevant. So what we need to do right away to make sure this marginalization of climate resistance is incorporating the arid lands, the policies, the people, and everything else into negotiating, talking, and then have their issues raised in a way that it will finally come to the ministry at headquarters for policy influence. The pastoralists actually are the most that get effects of drought. They get effects of drought. They lose animals, socioeconomic activity. They totally get affected out of this climate change. So by incorporating them into the bigger plan of the ministry, they will be able to speak from what they know, and they will be able to get better attention and better resolutions to the effect of this drought in a manner that would actually make them cope with what they are going through all the time. And also making sure, because it is one of the areas that is more affected in terms of receiving the impact of climate change, they need really to be cushioned in a way that they will be able to survive around these areas because they can't go away. That is their home place. That is where they know better. So by incorporating, it means we go and get homegrown issues that would be captured within the policy level. And even when we are talking of cushioning them during the drought, actually that would mean it must be taken down to where they can feel and utilize it. So I feel the policies that are supposed to enhance climate resistance, the ability to cope, should actually incorporate be from the top, down, down, up, so that at least there is that movement up, down, for themselves.
Majority Leader, you've just come in. Are you ready to ask a question? Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. Just for the benefit of the nominee, my name is Kimani Shongwa. And Beatrice, I see you have a very rich background in social work, and you also mentioned you worked with Oxfam as a relief food officer. And I'm certain you know part of your work in this ministry will involve the procurement and distribution of relief food. But this is one area that has been riddled with a lot of malpractices, especially the procurement and distribution. I'd want to hear what you would do if you are approved by this committee to ensure, one, that we have a very accountable system of procurement of the relief food and how it will be distributed on the ground to make sure that it gets to the right people, not benefiting government officers who are charged with the responsibility of distributing it. Two, I don't see in your CV and your work experience any experience touching on trade matters. And you know the EAC docket with the East African community, trade is very critical. And part of the problems we have in the government of Kenya not being present to negotiate on behalf of the country with the EAC countries. And we see an influx, especially of agricultural products, from onions, from our neighboring countries, potatoes, at times maize. The farmers in the south and North Rift, where you come from, and they can't market their maize because cheaper maize is coming from our neighbors in the region. What specific measures will you put in place to make sure that you negotiate for Kenya so that properly at the EAC to get exemptions on the tariff barriers that are there to make sure that our farmers are protected? I see you are a member of the selection panel of the Azimio running mate selection panel. That, and I'm asking this question because it would have a bearing on your decision-making abilities and capability. Do you think you made the right decision in your running mate decision in Azimio?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Majority Leader, Mr. Kimani. Now, on procurement on relief foods, actually the procurement process does not really have to be specific to the relief food. Procurement processes under finance are very clear in the sense that to the people. What you do is you just advertise as it's been. You do all those procedures up to where you award the tender to distribute. And now after that, by the that we are saying, let's incorporate the communities down and then influence what happens here. What we will do, we will produce a list of the potential beneficiaries or those ones that need to be helped or to be cushioned from the drought. Then those ones, lists that informs those that will benefit. Because the story to do with whether food reach the people or not, it's sometimes the making of the careless people because they think God in heaven is not watching. It is just good to be truthful when it is time to feed members of the society. So for me, the procurement process is still as it is in the other ministries, in the other public finance management acts.
Maybe before she moves away from that question, Beatrice, particularly what I want to hear, I don't know if you have been briefed from the ministry, what happens? In the procurement of relief food, they will usually go to some organization called, they pre-qualify people as suppliers of relief food with set prices. Then when they are procuring, they will usually just give tenders to those who are already pre-qualified within the system. But from the time the suppliers branch is pre-qualifying people, the prices given vary. For instance, a bag of maize or beans, I a year ago or 9 months ago may not be the price today. What I want to hear in terms of getting value for money for the people of Kenya, will we continue with the same old system through suppliers branch, or will you come in with new thinking to make sure that the procurement process is very transparent? You are able to match with the market prices. There's no reason buying a bag of maize for 6,000 shillings or when the current market price is 4,000 shillings, simply because the people who are pre-qualified by the suppliers branch were pre-qualified at a time when the prices were 6,000. That's what I would want to hear. What new innovation, what new thinking are you bringing to the ministry?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Kimani. My understanding is...
So address them through the chair.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Through the speaker?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. Now, I think what we need to do is, of course, there are malpractices that people have gotten used to. And having been a relief monitor, the process are very clear, just like the way we would procure. Of course, there is pre-qualification. But again, value for money should be prices, so that you don't escalate or put the prices up for other value, yet the market price does not go along with it. I think if I'll be approved by this committee, I'll make sure I'll be myself present in terms of, if this is the pre-qualification, what is the market price, so that we get value for money. Mm-hmm. And then on the side of trade, I have knowledge of trade. Through the chair, through the, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I'm used to, sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir. Sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir. I would want to say that maybe the issue of trade is not really captured in my CV. But I can assure you I'm from Turkana, where we ourselves trade with the community from Sudan, which is part of the state member of EAC, and we've also traded with a community from Uganda, which is also a member state of EAC. So when it comes to trade, there are two ways of doing it. One, there's that one of barter trade where you are like commodity, I exchange for other commodities. There are also where monetary currency is involved. So, but sometimes, even as we speak of procurement being having variance in prices, I still believe even in the trade, the commodities that are brought, we must also study, because this commodity is not centralized in a place. It is all agricultural, sorry?
Nominee?
Yes, Speaker.
You didn't get his question.
Okay.
East African community, like all other regional trade blocs, trade is governed by rules. It's not about getting a bag of maize and cross to Sudan and come back with a cow, or vice versa. It is a trade regime that is complex, dealing with customs, movement of goods, who produces what, who sells what. And when the East African community countries come together, they formulate rules that govern how we trade with each other to give advantage to everybody. So his question is, your CV doesn't have anything to do with that kind of regime. If you find favor with the committee and get this office, how are you going to handle East African affairs, knowing, and this has come up before, that Kenya is a poor negotiator at the table of trade with its partners, that we have that history. What are you going to do to improve our bargaining chip at the table of trade negotiations? That is the question that the majority leader was asking you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will answer that. Anything that is falling under...
Speaker, probably even just to put it in layman's terms, for instance, between us and our neighboring country, Tanzania, there are onions that come from there. The people of Loitoktok and Kieni are growing onions. But because of the EAC common markets, we don't levy duties on products coming from, no taxes are paid on products coming from Tanzania. We also take our products, like you are saying, you take your products to Sudan without paying duty, they bring their products without paying duty. But we need to protect our onion farmer in Loitoktok and in Kieni. And why we have failed as a country is because we don't negotiate properly at the EAC Council of Ministers to protect our farmers. Because it's possible to exempt and say, for this particular product, our country is disadvantaged and we need to levy duty so that what is coming from Tanzania becomes more expensive to protect our local farmers. It is that, what I wanted to know is, what would you do now to negotiate better? Do you have the appropriate negotiation skills to go and negotiate for Kenya?
Through the Speaker, actually what is happening normally when the two parties that are supposed to be enjoying their own sovereignty are involved, what you do, you really have to have the skill of communicating, negotiating, consulting, so that at least you come to an agreement on give and take. Because I personally feel there's nothing impossible when the willing hearts sit. And of course, we already know so much of what is happening in the world has come out of negotiation, consulting, reviewing. So if I happen to be appointed to this docket, that will be my work. I will make sure the partners, my equals in those countries, are able to agree. We can share the report because I know we are beginning from somewhere. We are not starting from a plain ground. Actually, we will have the concept of what may have happened, and then we discuss based on that to do give and take so that our own customers, our own, because of course something, when a product comes cheap, it is good to the customers, but bad to the producer who is doing the same locally. So what we need to do is, we need a situation where the producer does not take advantage of the consumer, and the consumer as well do not suffer, but again are able to accommodate and get these products at a price of give and take. And for Kenya, definitely being a Kenyan representative at that time, if that time come to pass, then it will be my role to get into the trade, negotiate with those people, agree, of course as consulting also with our own farmers on something that we will put on the table as they put theirs. So we agree finally on what the policy that would govern that free trade without disadvantaging any part of the country.
Your questions?
The one of the Azimio is left.
Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair, through the Speaker, that was then. That was then that I was among the panelists that were able to choose the deputy party leader of our party person then. Actually, you know, sometimes you work things as they appear on the table. I did fairness. Every party that was there had their representative. They had their candidates also wanting the same. So there was no way I would take over. It's only issues that, as you said, issues on the table. We agreed, and we said the parameters of somebody who would suit a running mate should be like this, and those are the binding grounds through which people are vetted. And the person we got had what it took, because it was not the Odium that picked, it was all political membership that decided the vet. I was only one person from Odium, the rest are from the other representative of the parties. So I tell you, whatever happened, happened because there were benchmark through to operate. I was right at that time.
In any case, it was a political decision.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Junet?
Mr. Speaker, just to add to it, actually I'm the one who appointed her to that committee. And I was satisfied with her work. She did a fantastic job. But anyway, that's beside the point. No, Kalonzo was going to become the president, Apambele. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, that is not the issue. I want to ask her, as somebody who has lived in Assal area, and you know very well that people in that area, as the Deputy Speaker has asked, have suffered for many years. And most of the time they complain that they don't get any help from government. But today you have been nominated from an Assal area to deal with those issues that affect those people who come from Assal area and from regions that feel marginalized in this country, despite devolution being in place and counties being in place that money is devolved. What different are you going to do if you are approved by this committee to help those people who live in the Assal areas? And secondly, You are going to become, if you are approved, the Minister for the East African Community. And you can see the community is growing. It used to be 6 in number. I think now they are 8 or something. DRC has joined. Somalia has joined. How are you going to harness the potential in that community, which now has close to 500 million people in terms of numbers? How will that be, helpful to you if you are approved as a minister by this committee? Thank you very much.
Through the speaker.
Go ahead.
Being an Assal person, one who grew in a Assal, I tend to believe I have what it takes through my own personal experience and through what I was seeing people do in that area. Pastoralists are good people. Pastoralists, if you recognize, if they are made to understand things and then you are there to explain. Pastoralists are good people. They can adopt new initiatives when sensitized. If created an awareness, they can implement things that would be implemented elsewhere. So what by me being there, I'll make sure they're involved in all these things that would improve their lives. Actually, I will be speaking from a point of information on what has been going on. As a pastoralist, I will be better placed to use my experience and my upbringing to make sure these communities actually get what they deserve without being traumatized the way they used to be. The information that is in circulation has never favored them. It is full of stereotyping. It is just too negative, poor publicity and very negative publicity. When I'll be on board, I will make sure the right information is given, the right analysis is given, so that their lives is going to be improved. At least be sure their own will be on board. And the information and anything that they would want to have will be truly from my personal life, personal experience. So be assured that one will be well done. Now, on the side of the growing economy of East Africa community, just as it is always written in the world of economy, you need numbers to grow the economy. You need a population that would do production. You need, again, a population that would consume what is produced. So if we grow and grow more, that will be to the advantage of the community, because we will have many targets around, they will have many supplies, we will have the mode of trade will really be up to it, because the people that will be producing and the people consuming and the people trading across each member state will be a good population that will grow economy in terms of value.
Thank you, Beatrice. Now we'll take batches of 2, 2, 2, or 3, then you answer. I'll start with Naisula. One question.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to know from the nominee, in case you're approved by this committee and the National Assembly, how you will walk the tight balance between protecting the interests of our country while at the same time taking care of the interests of the community. There are allegations and misconceptions or conceptions that, Kenya and other countries in the community compete, like Tanzania, DRC, Somalia, on other interests. So how will you walk that tight balance between the interest countries and the community's interest? The last question is on issue of relief food. Is it sustainable that in 2024 we are still talking about food, relief food and tendering processes in the areas, the Assal areas?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the nominee Honorable Asukul. I want to know, Mr. Speaker and Chairman, how will the nominee balance, or how will the nominee gain confidence now that she has been appointed in the office of East Africa, and particularly on the Assal, coming from one of the communities which fight other communities in the North Rift and in the entire Assal? I want to know how she will gain confidence, because now many people are watching, and of course she knows the Bokosa, the Turkanas, are perennial and God-given enemies, and also the Samburus and the Turkanas.
God does not give enemies.
That is what we believe, Honorable
That's
Speaker.
not a statement.
Maybe you will change our thinking, but that is our thinking. So, Honorable Speaker, the nominee is being watched by the Assal communities a lot. How will she address that issue of the conflict in the Assal for them to gain confidence from her? Number two, the regional development agencies. these regional agencies, Honorable Speaker, there's been a thinking that these regional agencies are doing what counties are supposed to be doing. They should have actually disappeared and or work for counties. Now that they work in national government, and perhaps now, and in this case, should Parliament approve her, they will work under her. She comes from the counties that believe that these agencies should work for counties. What is our opinion, Honorable Speaker, on these regional agencies?
Yes, nominee, we'll take Gikaria, or you'll rest a bit. Okay, answer those two.
Thank you. Through the Speaker.
And relax, don't be tense. Don't be.
I'm okay, Mr.
Yes,
Mr.
just
Speaker.
relax.
I'm okay.
And answer the questions as they come.
Mr. Speaker, I was only thinking that once there are 4 questions, and then I answer that one, then invite another
Now
one.
answer Naisula's 2 questions and Posing's question.
Through the chair, the question by Mheshimiwa Naisula is on the country interest versus the community interest. Above all, I acknowledge the fact that the country is the appointing authority. And within the appointing authority, there is sovereignty of Kenya that needs to be protected. There's political interest of Kenya that needs to be protected. And I equally believe even those that are representing the community elsewhere have their own thing to protect. But now, in terms of the bigger agenda, Kenya being mentioned as the state that is dividing, that is pushing hard, not dividing, pushing hard for the full realization of East Africa community affairs, I believe it will not be like me alone. We will consult with the other teams. We will work on a joint decision. We will collaborate on affairs that would add value to the growth. Because at that time, it will not like I will be favoring them and disadvantaging the country, or disadvantage the country and favor them. Whatever way, I will be firm in terms of what is good for all of us as a country and as a point that would propel the growth of the community. So I will make sure it is balanced, but of course underneath, I will also know I have to protect the interests and the sovereignty of the Republic of Kenya.
On relief food.
On relief food, whether it is sustainable. Actually, for those who supply relief food to us, feel when they question us from the tapped routes, they're doing us a good service. But if we evaluate the period through which we have been having relief foods, there's nothing really much sustainable about it. I would explore a situation where we get alternatives, like putting a market to a choice where when you give like a safety net provision to the beneficiaries, they are able to go and buy things of their choice. Because I believe at that specific time, I also believe relief food is not well, it's not, if you look at the money they used to procure relief food is so much that would be turned into an activity in a good season. Like for example, if we have it's only in bad weather that relief food are important. But in good weather, the same money would be turned into an activity that would sustain the people positively in terms of investing in food production, investing in the know-how, and how people would cushion themselves from the effect of the drought. But again, this habit of staying till they are bad enough to relieve, that is what is making our tribe, our communities in Assal, not to really have good image, because the pictures, everything at that moment of relief is terrible. But I wish we would turn that positively and say, instead of waiting for the bad moment to act, can we then use what would have been used to improve their lives when they are still healthy and good enough to run their affairs? So for me, it's not sustainable. It needs a better look of it.
Go to the next question.
Mheshimiwa posing question.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, honorable member should understand, I once served in the board of Rift Valley Water Services Board, which Pokot County fall under. So, and if it gets back to the records of what we used to supply to give that community in terms of water services, I had it as a Turkana then. I have never changed. The heart that I used to implement is the same heart that will still implement this. After all, I am only a Turkana by community, but by heart and everything else, I'm a Kenyan. I don't think if there's any Kenya, would develop another Kenya, just because you cattle rustle each other or do things. Point 2, on regional development agencies. My take of this is the regional development agencies have mandate that they had before devolution. But in the event that some of their functions are overlapping with counties, I would want a situation where we will look at what exactly are the regional development authorities doing as a role, vis-a-vis what counties are implementing. Because being a regional development agency, for example, let me use one that is in my place and my Mheshimiwa Posing's place, called KVDA. KVDA crosses 3 counties or 4. In this regional development, we always believe the project that will be implemented cuts across those counties. So that means if we talk of what people had proposed that the devolved function should be handed over to the county, in a situation where one project is cutting across 3 counties, which county in particular do you devolve this function to? So it will be difficult to have one project divided into 3 counties because the project they may have had before is cutting across several counties. So for me, even if a function is devolved, what we better do is let's make sure the bigger projects are done within the regions and the smaller projects be done in the county. In the event that the project implemented is cutting across 3 counties, the best for the region is, because I don't believe they will be doing smaller projects, region projects should be big enough to guarantee the region name called by them. So I think what we need to do is, if it is cutting across counties, then it is the representative of those counties that should be incorporated in the management of the region. That is my take. Other than saying, let's keep over everything and make sure it goes down. We also have to look at the capacities of counties. What counties can do, we'll allow them to do. What they can't do, we then, because the devolved function does not really make a county different from national, because they are still under the central government, they are still under the regional government. At least at the end of the day, we need to regulate the policies, framework through which they will be operating. And for me, regions should be there to undertake big works, and if they do small works, then they better devolve. But if they are going for big projects that are cutting across counties, that incorporate other development activities beyond in a big way, then we need to maintain them. And in the event that there is a need for counties to be involved, then let the representation of county be in the policy level of that regional thing. So that is what I would say.
Can I make a follow-up question? That does not forfeit my opportunity to ask my question. Nominee, I hear you speak passionately about regional development and that they should go ahead. But you see, there is a framework in law. The counties are formed by the Constitution, and then you have the Regional Development Act, which sets out these regional developments. It is regulated by law. So it is not at your position to say you will allow them to go to do you think there is need to amend the statutes so that we align the operations to the Constitution? Probably that will now give us an idea of how you'll operate if appointed. Do you think there is need for a review, amendment, or even removing the law completely so that you allow the Constitution to succeed because it is the mother law of the land?
Through the speaker, sir, I never said I drop, because as we speak, I'm only here to seek the favor of this committee to be appointed. So I cannot go ahead and say it should be removed. I'm here to get that affirmation. My concern is the issue of devolved functions and duplication of services. But having come from a particular background of being a county government staff, I know capacities within counties on what they can comfortably handle and what they cannot handle in terms of the expertise involved, the magnitude of the project that we may want to realize in regional agencies. My issue is, if the report that is informing this discussion is already on board, because I'm still outside till approved, if the information informing need whether to devolve it or to put it within the state agencies is informing the fact that they should review, why not? They can review the function, they can review balance works, so that now we see whether the information that would be before us would advise otherwise. So for me, I'm not saying we drop or we maintain. I'm only saying if the report informing what is being discussed will favor devolution, devolving, we devolve. It will favor the fact that we need to review activities that are undertaken by the regional development authorities, then we do that. Thank you.
Mary Mase, Dawood, and Murugara in that order.
Thank you, through the speaker. Nominee, I want to hear your thoughts
on the current East African Community funding mechanism, considering the fact that there are challenges already with the existing funding policy. We have partner states that are not honoring their obligation of remittances. So what alternative funding mechanisms would you be looking at if affirmed to this position?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. To the nominee, Madam Beatrice, I believe you have heard of the Equalization Fund, which was in Article 204 of the Constitution. Since establishment of the Equalization Fund, I believe it is about 14 billion, which has been allocated but has not been disbursed. Recently, in the last Parliament, the law was changed from the areas which it was being disbursed to. Now it is going to locations and not counties, as was previously the case. My question to you would be, do you think it was the right decision that it goes to locations, or would you suggest that it goes back to the way it was? Because there is talk that it will not serve the purpose what it was meant for. So what do you think about it? And where do you think the Equalization Fund should be used, basically? Is it in the water, electricity, roads, health facilities, or where do you think it should be used? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And nominee, we see more ways to be caught unawares as a government by whether the disasters that we experience in the country, like droughts, or even when with blessings from God, including heavy rains and floods. The net effect of both of them is lamentations that we are crying to the world out there to come and help us because we were not ready for this. If we harnessed the rains properly, we would actually possibly ameliorate the effects of droughts drastically. What are you likely to do as the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Assal as regards all these rains that we experience, which possibly we don't make use of, followed by lengthy droughts where we lose almost everything we own? What policies are you likely to put in place to ensure that there is a balance between the two?
Go ahead and answer those three.
Through the chair, on the Honorable Mary's question on AU funding, and some of the state members not remitting what they had agreed within the memorandum of partner states. My portion is countries, we can't assume that sometimes when the particular state do not remit, it's their own making sometimes. The issue of inflation and the rate at which economy is moving may not be favoring maybe some of these countries that are not remitting. Or even the countries that are remitting does not really tell that the economy around them is doing fine in terms of complying with what they had agreed. My portion of it is it then possible within the framework of what to be implemented to make sure we look at the alternative ways of fundraising, so that we as a member state of East Africa Community explore to benchmark from institutions that have done similar services, like African Union, so that we get to know which approaches are they using to sustain themselves, so that we can benchmark. And then what happens is we also need to talk to the member states to make sure once they agree and comply with what has been agreed, they better follow it and implement to the most effect of it. So for me, if a state is not complying by remitting what was meant to be remitted, then it is upon the negotiating team that would be there through East Africa Legislative or through the Council of Ministers at the East Africa Community to engage that country and see why are they not remitting. Because the moment they refuse or they fail to remit what is supposed to be remitted, that probably would mean now the slowing down of activities that would have benefited from the funding. So I think there is need to look for alternative funding. There's also need to look to benchmark on the units that have applied a similar principle and see how we can learn and how to capture some of the things they may have followed and then to sustain themselves, like, for example, the African Union approach as a benchmarking unit. That is what I would suggest. Or sometimes we can decide as member states to say, like, this is just about a suggestion, that if there are revenue to be accrued or taxes to be put on any import that is coming from non-East Africa community members, if something is imported outside the membership, is it then, if we agree, put a policy, a framework that would put a small charge that will automatically be put as a finance sustained way within the East Africa community? I'm just proposing that, and I'm suggesting that, which is subject to deliberation within the partner states. Now on equalization fund. Equalization fund, as it was in the provision of the Constitution, was meant to tackle particular basic needs within communities and counties that were not at par in terms of development. For example, counties were supposed to use equalization fund in the provision to do a bit of education, to take care of water, to take care of roads, to take care of health, to take care of electricity. And this money was supposed to go directly to, I assumed it must have been the money for counties. And because of the many things that were not very clear then, it kept not being taken down. My question is, equalization fund, by virtue of their own targets, target a service that touches the life of a citizen of Kenya. So if this equalization fund, because education as it is as a component in equalization fund, has the Ministry of Education, it has the Ministry of Water, it has the Ministry of Roads, it has the Ministry of Health, it has the Ministry of that leads. So is it then possible to conglomerate all these systems, all these ministries, to talk and see, of course, engaging the legislative arm of government, that is you people here, to make sure the best approach is considered so that we see, do we have to maintain it this way, or do you have to take this money to the locations? And for me, because it is still a debate, we need to incorporate all the ministries that touch, that their own activity touch on equalization fund. Issues on disaster or drought, and then in the country that seems to be taking people unaware. Actually, in my view, I feel people are not serious when it comes to handling of disasters and droughts, because I believe there are institutions in this republic that give early warning reports. NDMA gives early warning reports on the potential and the likely effect of the climate and the effects of droughts, all those things. If we would only utilize the report in early enough within the context of early warning to make sure the best is planned before, the best is prepared before the thing strikes us. But in the event that drought has come, the opposite of drought has always happened in Kenya. Like there's a season for drought, and again there's a season for floods. I wish we would get down and discuss when we have plenty, the runoffs, the water that find their way to the lakes, that find their way to the oceans, then capture before it gets spoiled. Because as it goes down the rivers, it is fresh. Once it gets to the lake, gets to the ocean, it begins another process. Are we then, if we are serious with managing ourselves, managing disasters, are we then able to capture this water before it reaches the final destiny through maybe water harvest? And then turn that into food production?
Nominee, now tell us. Forget about we.
Oh.
You have been nominated, and if you find favor, you will become the CS. When you sit in that office, it is not we now. It is you, the CS. What will you do so that those extremes don't become a constant nightmare for our country?
Mr. Speaker, the reason why...
When there is drought, we die. When there is rain, we die.
Mr. Speaker, we need to utilize the water in this. The reason why I use we is because I will not work alone. There are departments under which we will work together. There are technocrats that will bring their expertise into this. For the sake of this presentation, allow me to use we, meaning now the entire system that is supposed to intercept in reducing drought effects and those disasters in this community. I think what we need to do is, if I'm appointed or approved by this committee, I will be able to look at the measures that are sustainable and how to do water harvest instead of just leaving it go downstreams. The other thing is alternative means of survival. Like if you utilize a report of early warning, that would mean now we will prepare our people to caution themselves from the hard effects that may come through maybe sensitization or making them grow alternative livelihoods so that we don't wait thousands of cows to go down and then bring relief food, so that again we work around what they know to perfect the system and to caution them from the bigger effects. So for me and my team, and that's why I was using we, allow us to work around modality that incorporates all partners in this, to talk about it and come up with a solution. And that will be my work, to make sure we mobilize all partners that deal with the disaster, drought effects, to put their brains together and come up with projects that would reduce the effect without necessarily having Kenyans to lose lives.
Thank you. Owen, Robert, and Mule, in that order.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I would like to ask the following question to the nominee that I'll talk about the East African community, Honorable Speaker. The East African community, we have a chair. I don't know whether you know who the chair is, the current one. And what is the protocol that is used for electing the chairman of the East African community? The protocol. The second one is you will be, if appointed, you'll be our top diplomat within the East African community, apart from the Foreign Affairs Minister, but you'll be our top East African diplomat. And you know we have the Political Federation Protocol. As it is right now, there are a lot of tensions among member states, where Uganda and Rwanda regarding border issues. You have Kenya and Uganda on the Migingo, which is also another border issue. You have the M23 rebels in DRC Congo that is pulling in Rwanda. You have the Kenya-Somalia territorial water dispute that has gone up to the highest court of the world. And then you have internal conflicts between Burundi and Rwanda. Based on this, do you think East Africa is likely to achieve a political federation? And do you have knowledge of the political federation protocol on the East African community, and how far are we in that protocol to getting a political federation? And lastly, Honorable Speaker, I've checked your educational background. I realize a gap. You start from a trade test to a certificate, then there's a gap, then you have a degree, then you have a master's. So how did you obtain a degree without a linking diploma? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Nominee, while answering Honorable Mary's question on alternative funding, I heard you mention that you would be proposing taxes so that they can be able to be used to support the community. And be careful, Kenyans are very uncomfortable with any mention of additional taxes. I have two issues. One is the Ministry of EAC is an important ministry, because I think what part of the protocol is that every one of the partner states has to have that ministry as a standalone ministry. Although Kenya, we have connected it also with Assal. How do you believe Kenya benefits or continues to benefit from being in the East African community, noting that sometimes some of the trade agreements are not in our favor? So I'd like a clear answer on that one. And secondly, this is basically coming from the public since we started vetting. And you have served as in the Rift Valley Water Service Board as a director from 2008 to 2012. You also were a CEC in Turkana County government from 2013 to 2016. More or less, you have actually been working for the public and earning your pay from taxpayers. Now, the thing that public has been helping us to do in vetting is the issue of net worth, and they have been very, very particular. You've noticed all the headlines. Every time we have vetting, the main issue of concern is the value or the net worth of the individuals that we have been vetting. I've gone through your CV. You are saying you have a net worth of 100 million. I would like you to probably just to allay the fears of the public so that they don't think that you got this from Turkana County when you worked at CEC, to just tell us how did you acquire it? Because every time we have mention of money, people think that is all stolen money. So you need to explain to them how you acquired this money and that you've been paying your taxes appropriately so that we can put this matter to rest. And you're doing this because of all the other candidates that have come before us who never got this question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome, nominee. A quick one is that East Africa community has a common market protocol of free movement of labor. And you know very well, in this country we have a huge batch of youth who are seeking for employment. What measures are you going to put in place to ensure that this free movement of labor does not come to disadvantage our youth within the country, that is Kenya? And secondly, as you are joining this ministry, if you are approved, I want to hear your mind on the East African Development Bank, whereby it is a bank run by the state partners, and sometimes as legislators, we have been not able to get clarity on the investment in this bank, the loan portfolio in this bank, and the capital investment of this bank within Kenya. Leave the other states, within Kenya, because you'll be present.